Today, I'm going to start a different kind of video. This will be my first Plants vs. Zombies theory. Yes, I am one of the 4 people crazy enough to theorize about Plants vs. Zombies. In this video, I'll be talking about the timeline order of the PvZ games. A lot of people have their own idea of what the timeline is like, so I'll be explaining what mine is for the sake of my future theories, and yes, there will be several of those. This timeline will be in release order, except for one little thing that might make a lot of people mad. So without further ado, let's begin. Our timeline, at least for now, starts in 2009 in PvZ1. There's not much more to say about PvZ1 until the next video, so I'll just move on. The next thing in the timeline is PvZ2, which I always thought was obvious, but there's actually some evidence against it as seen in this NGmain video. But the official guide does directly connect PvZ1 and 2. There's not much more to say about PvZ2, but I will get into its worlds in later theories. Speaking of the official guide, the next thing is the official guide. For those who don't know, The Official Guide to Protecting Your Brain is a book published in 2013 that acts as a guide that the government made for the general population sometime after PvZ2, but Crazy Dave vandalized it. Anyway, there are a few pages that talk about zombie history. Now, there's a lot of stuff here that I'll be bringing up in my later videos, but the main thing I'm interested in right now is the last thing here, alluding to a zombie attack happening in 2014. I think this is what leads into Garden Warfare 1. Now, as I said, there are several different theories about these games, and there are many approaches to the difference in the Plants and Zombies power level between them. I have my own, but I think it would make more sense if I explain it in part 2, because it's kind of its own theory in and of itself, so please just take my word for it for now. You may think the next thing in the timeline after Garden Warfare 1 would be Garden Warfare 2. But, not really. This is easily the part of my theory that conflicts the most with everybody else's. The next thing in the timeline after Garden Warfare 1 is the comics. Yes, I know all of you are probably jumping up and down in your seats and like screaming at your screen or something and saying that the comics are absolutely definitely 100% not canon, but if you will just hear me out for a second while I present my evidence, it's actually quite convincing, I promise. First of all, the mainline comics have 21 volumes at the time of writing, but there's a sub-series of comics called the Garden Warfare comics that perfectly tie into the games. In Volume 1, we see Citron time travel from the future, and Rose time travel from the past, which directly parallels what we are told of in Garden Warfare 2's loading screen facts. It's crazy how nobody brought this up, because this completely confirms the comics' connection to the games. In my timeline, I have the main comics taking place during the last half of Garden Warfare 1, giving them roughly a year to play out for the Garden Warfare comics just before the start of Garden Warfare 2. This does raise the question of how can Dave be in 2 places at once? Well, my answer is he isn't. He's with us during the first half of Garden Warfare 1, specifically Garden Ops, but in 2015, he moves to Neighborville, because he has a niece to raise and his army is intelligent enough to run independently. Zomboss follows because he's Zomboss, and now the both of them only communicate with their armies remotely, and their boss mode vehicles are remote piloted, as explained by Dr. Zomboss in a Garden Warfare 1 trailer. This would explain why Dave's RV never shows up in the comics, where instead he uses Penny, as seen in Time Apocalypse. Anyway, after the first volume of the Garden Warfare comics, Garden Warfare 2 multiplayer starts. I should specify that I'm only referring to multiplayer and not the campaign. The campaign happens a few weeks later, after Volume 2, where we see Captain Smasher in the flesh very much not defeated. The third and final volume introduces us to the characters that are seen in Battle for Neighborville and shows the smell jar being dropped on the zombie HQ. Now, it's not an exact match to the one seen in Battle for Neighborville, but that's probably because of a miscommunication between Paul Tobin and the BFN team. Not long after, the zombie forces in Suburbia die out, signaling the end of Garden Warfare 2, and the zombies spend 3 long years in the smell jar. After that, the zombies break out of the smell jar and Battle for Neighborville happens. In one of the elusive foe medals, it says that the zombies are fighting harder than ever before. Now, this doesn't mean much to most people, but now that we're taking the comics into account, I'd like to bring up this line in Time Apocalypse that says something about a zombie takeover in 2020. Well, that's a year after BFN, which lines up perfectly with our timeline. Now, let's talk about the future. The zombies have won, but the plants and humans persist for years after. The far future as seen in Time Apocalypse is likely in the 2060s, given the main character's supposed ages, and the far future as seen in PvZ2 is stated to be in the year 2323. Now, we don't know if humans are still around by then, but we do know that the plants and zombies are still fighting in the year 3058. Yeah, 3058. Thank you all for watching this video. This is just the beginning of my theories, and my next video will be about what happens before the games, and I am so excited to share what I've found over these past few months. I'll see you soon.